where did these problems start? And the vast majority of the time, the couples will say, it's when we had our first baby or when we had our second baby.
Whatever day I would wake up and say that I had had no sleep and I was so exhausted, he would miraculously wake up more tired than me.
Yeah, it often becomes point scoring. It often becomes about, I'm doing the most, you're not doing enough. And this is where couples can panic sometimes because they think that what's going on between them is a failing of their relationship. It's like an internal failing. What if it's not good? What if something happens? Would we be able to make it through it? How strong are we?
Today we're talking about something that almost every couple goes through, but barely anybody talks about. The moment when you go from just the two of us to everything's changed after having a baby. And we've brought in the incredible Suzie Booth to help us unpack what really happens to your relationship when you become parents. Suzie, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Can you start off by telling the listeners just a little bit about what you do as a relationship therapist and what kind of couples usually come to you for help?
So, hi, thank you for having me. I'm Suzie Booth. So, yes, I'm a psychotherapist, couples therapist, and generally my specialism is in parenting and seeing parents of children younger end of childhood. But what you find with couples therapy is that actually you see a lot of couples coming with children who are much older.
Right.
The problems started, however, when children were born and much younger, and they've kind of struggled on through life, hoping that it's naturally going to get better. And of course it doesn't, and it gets kind of worse over time and the resentment grows. So actually I see couples with a really wide range of ages, but what you'll find is that the problems generally started at the beginning.
Yeah.
Some couples are coming really high conflict. Others are really disconnected. Others have got this kind of years of simmering resentment. And what we're doing in couples therapy and relationship therapy is really looking at the relationship as like an entity of its own. So think of like a Venn diagram. We've got me here, we've got you here. And what we're doing is working with the bit in the middle where we overlap essentially and figuring out why it is that the relationship looks this way, how it is that we've got here, and then what we would like to try and do to move forward and make it better, essentially.
It's interesting that you say, really, that a lot of the problems actually start from when the children are young. It's quite interesting that, isn't it?
Yes.
And how it's not until you see the couples later on in life that they're maybe really struggling.
Yeah, I think the patterns set in early, and if we don't kind of consciously reevaluate and renegotiate how we're doing things as things change over time, the patterns just get really entrenched. And, you know, mum who was doing most of it with baby, coming up with routines and things like that during maternity leave is still doing that when the children are like 10 years old because nothing's been renegotiated along the way. So a lot of the time we're really going back to like, where did these problems start? And the vast majority of the time the couples will say, it's when we had our first baby or when we had our second baby. It's really interesting.
Okay. So why is it then that the transition to parenthood is such a big deal for relationships? Even like a couple that felt quite solid beforehand.
It's, you know, we go through this massive change, don't we, as individuals when we have children. So for women, we go through our matrescence, and for the dads, they go through their putrescence. And if you think again about that Venn diagram, if, you know, previously before children, I was a yellow and you were a blue, the relationship in the middle would look like a green. That's how we overlap. During that massive transition into parenthood, if I change and become red and you become white, that relationship now looks pink. It's a completely different colour. It's a completely different entity. And couples often don't realise that that is what is going to happen. You know, the early days of parenting are stressful. They're exhausting. They're scary. And all of those things elevate our nervous systems. They put us into fight and flight. And when we're in that place, we don't feel safe. If you think about, I don't know if you've heard of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
What we have at the bottom there are like our physiological needs. We need like oxygen and food and water. Above that sits like personal safety. Now, when our nervous systems are elevated, when we're in fight and flight, we do not feel safe. The layer on top of that is our relationships, our connections, our intimacy. So if we're not feeling personally safe, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to then connect with others and be intimate and be vulnerable. So the fact that we're in this kind of fight and flight place, early parenting, really means that everything's being interpreted as a threat. Your partner's snappy tone, their disconnection, their exhaustion, they're all really scary things to a relationship. You're snapping at each other. So really we're in this place where we're dysregulated and we're not able to kind of attend to each other the way that we did before. I mean, before we had children, we would probably do this really lovely, quite unconscious dance as a couple where one of you struggles at a time. So one of you struggling, the other one steps in and kind of looks after the other one. That one starts to struggle. The other one kicks out of their struggle and looks after them. When we're going into that transition into being parents, we're both struggling at the same time. And it's really hard to attend to each other and give each other what we need when we're struggling as well.
Absolutely. And I think you both have different struggles, don't you, when you have a child? I mean, I know speaking from my own experience with 3 children in now, and certainly with our first, it was a big shock to the system because my time and attention was fully on baby. And my first didn't come into the world that easily. Like, he had lots of struggles with reflux and all sorts of things. So I was sleep deprived and I was confused and didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to help. And so therefore, for my husband, I just wasn't around. Like, I just was so uninterested in him and his life and his job. And previously, in our sort of 10 years together before, I was interested in everything in his world. So he had kind of lost me in so many ways as a friend, a support and everything. And looking back, I think that must have been really challenging. And you can see why it is quite common, isn't it, that couples, for the man, they might perhaps resent the baby a little bit in the beginning, or that change in dynamic, because they do kind of lose you a little bit in some ways to start with, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And it is a really common dynamic that dads feel that resentment, or they feel pushed out. And what you kind of hear a lot from people, or from mums, from women who are struggling, is like, oh, but he's a grown man. Come on, like, he can just look after himself. I'm trying to deal with this baby. And it's absolutely true. We do need dad to kind of manage himself a bit. But this is all new to him as well. And he's frightened as well. And his nervous system is elevated as well. So we have to try, like, as much as we possibly can to reserve a little bit for him, you know, to make sure that he does still feel at least like you're interested slightly in him. Even if that's like forced check-in times with each other, where it's just like, how's your week been? You know, how are you finding this? It's not going to be the same as it was before. But really trying to give dad some sense of you're needed.
And I guess you don't really know when it's going to end first time round, do you? You just feel like this change is here to stay and that your old life has gone. And it's quite hard to recognise that this is a phase and there will be another phase after that and another one after that. But, you know, that you can make those adjustments.
Yes. And it is, like you say, they come in phases. What we kind of really need couples to do is come together during the phases and come together after the phases, like almost like, oh, we've kicked into a new phase here. Like, maybe baby's gone like into their own room at 6 months old or whatever it is. There's just that tiny little bit more space. Let's kind of acknowledge that we're in the next phase here, that we, you know, haven't got baby in the room, that we can have a cuddle at night or whatever it is. But yeah, coming together, like I said at the beginning, like reevaluating, renegotiating, celebrating, like, oh, maybe we've got through this phase here. Maybe something else difficult is coming, but maybe it's going to be a little bit easier here on out. But really it's about like just always trying to come together as a team. Remember that it's difficult for both of you in different ways. And that it doesn't have to be like a competition of who is it most difficult for. Is that a common one that you find among lots of parents? Oh, yes. It's a real like point scoring system that happens between parents, and that feeling of like, I'm the most exhausted. I'm the most stressed. I've got the most difficult day tomorrow, so you need to do X, Y, and Z.
I used to joke about that with my husband. Whatever day I would wake up and say that I had had no sleep and I was so exhausted, he would miraculously wake up more tired than me. That used to be a source of arguments for us in the early days.
And I think the difficult bit there as well is like biologically, like men they do struggle more with the sleep deprivation. So two mums who have been up all night, they're almost just like this, I can't understand how you're so tired.
Yeah.
But they are like, they're not primed in the same way as us to deal with the sleep deprivation. But yeah, it often becomes point scoring. It often becomes about, I'm doing the most, you're not doing enough. And that's what it becomes. Instead of like, I'm really tired and you're really tired.
Yeah.
It becomes, you're really tired, but I'm more tired because I'm doing this, you're not doing that. It's really difficult for people to realize that you saying that you're tired, them saying they're tired, they're just not taking away from each other. It can be both, and it can be tired in a different way.
That's really interesting, the terminology you just used there, though, isn't it? That you're really tired and I'm really tired.
Yes.
And taking out that word but, because it just negates everything, doesn't it? And I think that's something I've learned over the years, is just those little shifts of language can make a really big difference to how your partner or you feel seen, valued and heard.
Yes. And what the shift in language needs is just for us to like pause before we speak. Now, that's really hard in the early days because we're tired and stressed and all of those things. We're reactive. But if we could just pause, take a moment, how do I want to word this? It does make such a difference because, they say, anything before the but is bullshit, basically. It just, you don't mean anything that comes before it, essentially. And it's really easy to kind of idealize each other's roles, idealize each other's jobs. I often hear from mums, you get to go to work. When mums are on maternity leave, you get to go to work. You get to leave the house. You get to leave this job behind, go and do something that you enjoy, have adult conversations, sit and have your lunch in peace, And it's really difficult for mums to sometimes realize that dad's work might be really hard and it might be really stressful, and they're feeling a lot of pressure to earn the money and to perform well at work, because if they don't have this job, then you guys are in trouble. And it's really easy for dads to sit kind of here, what's your day to day? Oh, you've been to a baby sensory class and you went for coffee with the NCT mums after, well, that sounds lovely. You've watched some TV. Whereas actually the reality of that day, I remember going to baby sensory and he would scream the whole way through. And it was hell. It was awful. I felt so embarrassed. And then we'd go for a coffee with the NCT mums and their babies were all doing something that he was not doing yet. And then I would come home really worried and anxious that he wasn't doing things, or they were all being breastfed and I had to get the formula out and I felt shame. So it's not always exactly what you think is happening. And we need to be really curious with each other about what was your day like, rather than kind of projecting whatever it is that you're missing onto them.
And I love that. You're so right about being curious. I guess that's perhaps one of the challenges, certainly in the early days, isn't it? Is maybe finding the time to be curious with each other, to actually have that conversation as to what did your day actually look like, not just how I'm seeing it from the outside, which, as you say, I went to baby sensory and had coffee. Because let's be honest, any mum who's been there, we know that that's not really how the day goes. No. You might well have been screamed at. You couldn't get the baby in the car. Stopping for fuel was really stressful. Your baby didn't do what the other babies did. You can still be lonely because that was only 1 hour of a very long day. You might have been trapped in the rest of the day. So it's about having the time to actually communicate what actually happened in your day.
Yes. And some of that is about being properly honest with each other. Because, I remember when my husband would come home and what I would offer him was, we went to baby sensory and I saw the NCT mums. I didn't offer, and it was really difficult. So he didn't know. And he would come in from work and I would say, oh, how was your day? And he, not wanting to put more on me, would just say, oh, yeah, it was fine. But how's baby been? And all that focus on baby. So it's about having the space to be curious and ask, but it's needing to be vulnerable with your partner as well.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to connect with them, is be vulnerable, tell them what's going on. Actually, I felt really lonely today. Because otherwise they probably are just going to go, okay, and then move on with the day.
Yeah, I guess that's a hard part though, isn't it? Sometimes I guess people don't want to admit that vulnerability. They don't want to be seen as not coping, I guess, in some ways. I know there's a lot around maternal mental health, isn't there, that women feel that they need to carry it all. And admitting that can be quite a challenge, I think, for some women.
It is, because I think they expect themselves to just be naturally good at
Yeah.
it. And then even to their partners, it's a real shameful admission that they're finding it hard.
Yeah.
Without doing that, though, nothing's going to be able to change. And what we really want, you know, kind of going back to your point about dads feeling sort of resentful of baby and a bit disconnected, is we really want dad to like jump into this with us as mums. You know, this is like a shared responsibility. We want to be in it together. And if it looks like you're doing amazingly with it, even if you're not, he's not going to know what it is that you need. And this often gets really entrenched during maternity leave. So it becomes mum's job. Baby in home is mum's job. She's doing that all day. She gets the better sense of like what works with baby, what type of rocking they need to get to sleep and what snacks they like and all of those things. She's coming up with kind of how everything needs to work. Dad comes home, and if he tries to do something different, that doesn't always go down very well. It's like, no, that's not what baby needs. And, you know, don't get involved. Dad kind of steps back. Feeling a bit useless, feeling redundant, not quite knowing where his place is. Mum then ends up feeling even more resentful, even more alone because dad's stepped back. And you just get into this really difficult, disconnected place. What we really want to do is like invite dad in, like, come, I need you in this with me. That's how you're going to not feel pushed out and how I'm going to feel less lonely.
And that's a really key point, actually. I know I was definitely guilty of that with my first child, in doing everything. And then if my husband did try to do anything, just criticising that he wasn't doing it right, wasn't doing what the baby had needed, wasn't doing everything that I'd learned, wasn't doing it the exact way. And then it took me time to realise that I was doing that and to actually really step back and look at, well, in one sense, I'm a bit resentful that you don't do more, but then I'm not really holding space for you to do more. And actually really kind of recognising that in myself, that really that sat with me, not necessarily with him.
Yes. And this goes on again, like if this gets entrenched in the early days, this carries on from years and years and years. And I hear from couples, you know, dad's kind of saying, and this is where the language becomes, dad's saying, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And mum's saying, I don't want to have to tell you what to do.
That's so common, isn't it?
Yes. But for dads also, there's this sense of like, sometimes they try, sometimes they don't, and they need to try a bit more. But sometimes they try and it's wrong. So they're basically saying, instead of me just doing it and getting it wrong, tell me what you want. Because you hear so often, don't you, like, I put a wash on, thinking he's done this like really great thing, and then her saying, I know, I've said it to my husband before, like, why have you done that? There's some more stuff that needed to go in there, you know, almost like stop getting involved. And then in the next breath I'll be like, why does he never put a wash on? And so it is kind of, I think for mums as well, the pressure of being a mum, the pressure of being a modern mum is so high. We're kind of just about keeping everything together. And there's this sense of like, if one little thing drops, if one thing doesn't get done, if that bit of washing is not in that load, everything's going to fall apart. So there's just this grip on everything that I need to keep control of. And it does then leave dads wondering, how am I actually needed here?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? So it's very common then for new mums to feel quite lonely.
Yes.
How can a partner actually support the mum in her new role?
So this is an incredibly common thing to happen. And of course, like all of our relationships change when we become parents, like the friendships change. We're maybe not at work, we haven't got our colleagues, but that sense of how much we change through our matrescence, we don't have ourselves anymore. We feel like we've lost ourselves, which is such an incredibly lonely place to be. And what we really need is for dads to be in it with us, alongside us as mums, curious, interested in us. How was baby sensory? How was the coffee with the NCT mums? And what we really need him to do is be able to sit in whatever the feeling is. Now, this is a really common thing that you see, not with all men, it is a generalization, but for a lot of men, they can find it really difficult to sit in difficult feelings without wanting to fix it. They're kind of natural fixers. It's like, okay, well, you don't need to feel that way. So let's come up with a plan, or there's some kind of really nice, well-intended, reassuring comment, but of course it's just not landing at the moment. So we really need men to kind of fight that urge to step in and fix and just sit in it with
Just listen.
mum. Just listen.
Yeah. I often say that to my husband. Exactly as you just say, I don't want you to have the answer. Chances are I have the answer.
Yes.
I just need you to listen so that I can process it in my own way. And then I'm going to go off and do exactly what I think is the right thing to do. Because otherwise my husband will say to me, you're going to do what you want to do anyway. And I'm like, yes, still need you to listen.
Yes, I need you to understand. And this is the thing, like the antidote for loneliness is that like understanding, it's feeling seen for exactly who
Having
and
your
what we
experience
are.
validated.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we need partners to be doing that. We need them to be in it with mums in a physical sense. So doing the jobs with them, that they're not up all night on their own with baby. You know, you both have your jobs. Your job perhaps is going out to work. Mum's job during maternity leave is being at home with baby. But once you come home from work and those days finish, the rest of that time is shared responsibility. And that really helps mums. You know, that middle of the night is such a lonely place to be. And we need partners to be in it with us, in that they are also getting up at different times, or when we get back into bed, there's just like a little stroke of the back and like, oh, well done for getting them back down. You know, just something that's
some
like,
encouragement.
I'm here with you. And we really want dads to be kind of encouraging connection for mum with other people as well. Who else have you got? Because we cannot expect partners to fulfill every social and emotional need that we have. It's too much for them. They're not going to be able to do it. They are going to fail at it. It's too big an expectation. So we also need dads to be kind of, you know, who else have you got? Who else could you meet up with? Who feels safe? If you're feeling shameful and embarrassed, which one of your people in your village feels safe enough for you to meet up with and be able to be vulnerable? So we really want him to be in it and understanding, helping mums to gain other social support as well.
I think there's been times in my matrescence journey when, like you say, your husband can't fulfill all of that because at the end of the day, he hasn't been through a pregnancy in the same capacity that I have, and he hasn't birthed the child and had that postpartum stage in the same capacity that I have. I know he's had his own journey. So to have another female in my life that has been through that exact thing at a similar sort of time has been the most relatable person for me to sometimes have those conversations with. And sometimes that is what you need to feel validated and heard, is that they truly do get it because they're going through the exact same things that you are at that moment in time.
And then what kind of dad could do to help facilitate that is to say, you know, I'm okay to be at home with baby if you want to go and meet up with whoever. There are obviously like different logistical challenges around that, but like, how can I facilitate this? Or, you know, why don't you invite them over and I'll go and sit upstairs in the bedroom and you guys can sit downstairs, you know, have a glass of wine or a coffee or whatever it is. Like, how can he help facilitate whatever it is that mum needs? Because it's going to be really difficult for her to do that for herself at times because everything's being channeled into the baby.
Yeah, I guess so much of it really does come down to that communication, doesn't it?
It's such a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It is all about just understanding each other and having compassion for each other. That is like remembering that you guys are a team. That's the reason probably that you did this in the first place.
Yeah. So many, how can we make space then for both the partner's experience in early parenthood without turning it into a competition of who is more exhausted?
So this is, I guess, about the kind of having your own understanding that them struggling doesn't take away from your struggle. It's that, and they can struggle and you can struggle. And sort of like what I suggest to couples is having like a really sort of enforced, it feels quite unnatural at first, but like enforced check-in time with each other. Maybe it's like once a week on a Friday evening, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how we are and how we're finding things and what our experience of our week has been like. And we're going to just try and listen. We need to make space for each other. I mean, I talk to parents about these kind of like 5 areas of prioritization. One of those is the child. They get prioritized most of the time. The other is prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your partner, prioritizing the relationship, and then prioritizing the family unit. Now, the child gets prioritized a lot. the family unit probably gets prioritized a lot, but we need to remember here also that we should be prioritizing ourselves at times. We should be prioritizing our partner, and we should be prioritizing our relationship space. What happens in the early days is it turns into me versus you.
Yeah.
What we need to try and remember to do is bring in that relationship element. And that check-in time is the kind of, how am I doing? How are you doing? How are we doing together? It's prioritizing that space.
That's really interesting. I've never heard it put like that, and really important, because I think, like you say, we do prioritize our kids because we feel like they're children and we should. And then we prioritize the family unit because we feel like that kind of benefits everyone, and that's family time. But why is there this kind of selfish feeling if we prioritize ourselves, or even like us as a couple? You feel like you're not giving to your kids, and are you selfish parents? Is that the wrong thing to do? Is that going to benefit the unit? Why do we feel like that?
I think, like you say, this word selfish really comes into it. And there's still a lot of narrative out there, isn't there, about your child being your entire world.
Yeah.
And your child shouldn't be your entire world. Neither should you be their entire world. There's so much more out there for everybody here than just each other. But there is still, I think, a societal narrative about the good mother, the perfect mother, prioritizes her child over herself. And I have so many clients and friends who will say to me, I just need to be selfish. And I'm like, stop saying the word selfish. It's not selfish to prioritize yourself at times, because you and your partner, your relationship is the foundation of this family. Solid partnership, solid family unit, wobbly partnership, wobbly family unit. So it's absolutely vital that you protect that space, which is the two of you. And it does sound harsh at times. And, we will kind of say to our, he's nearly 5 now, mummy and daddy going to have dinner together tonight downstairs. You're going to bed. If you call out, for the 5th time, making up some excuse to get us upstairs, we're actually not going to come because we're sitting and we're having dinner together tonight. And does it always go down well? No. But do we get that time to reconnect? Yes. And actually in that moment, that kind of trumps his need for some unnecessary glass of water. Yes.
We have the same situation in my house, actually. So my children, again, would keep coming out of bed, and I'm the same. I'm very kind of firm about bedtime and that routine, because that's the only way I can protect my time in the evening, which is a bit for me and a bit for my husband. And I just feel like we need that. The kids have had me at other points in the day. They do get prioritised over lots of things over me and my husband. So that bit of time in the evening, I'm like, I've done my job as a mother to you. You need to go to bed and go to sleep, because that's also good for you. And then we get our time to talk, relax. If we want to read a book, if we want to have quiet time and hear our own thoughts, or reconnect and talk. And very often, actually, we kind of, a few years ago, I remember reading something about actually taking the pressure off having a date night, and just accepting that sometimes the best kind of date night is just your time together. And we kind of laugh now that sometimes our best chats are just on the bed at the end of the evening. It's not when we try and get dressed up and go into London and go for a dinner because we're too tired, and the drive, and then there's traffic, and then, you bump into somebody, and exactly. It's just sometimes just having the quiet space to just have a chat or not.
My favourite time to chat is when we get into bed at night. That is when I'm at my chattiest. Now, my husband's like, my God, it's time for us to go to sleep. And I'm like, can you just stay here and chat for like another hour? But there is something about just like the pressure being taken off. And because it reminds me especially of how life was before the children. When we used to just chat. And yes, it was nice to go out for dinner, but it wasn't quite so needed. We just used to chat all the time, and it's really nice. And that's what it is. It's those like micro moments of connection, because I'll also hear a lot from couples, we don't have a village, we don't have parents nearby that can babysit for us to go out for dinner. And sometimes it's about like, just have a hug in the kitchen. You're cooking dinner, just have a quick like 30-second hug. Have a cup of tea together. That is something that just reminds you like, we're a couple here. We're not just mum, dad. We're not co-managers. We're not just surviving. It's, yes, you might be stressed dishing the dinner up, but you have actually got 30 seconds to just have a quick hug.
Because it's very easy to fall into the trap, isn't it, that a huge percentage of your communication is about the functionality of the day. Can you put his school bag in the car? Can you be at this place? Right, I'll meet you here, I'll meet you there. It's not actual real sort of connection chat, is it?
Yeah, it's not about yourself.
Yeah.
It's about external stuff all the time. And this is where couples can panic sometimes because they think that what's going on between them is a failing of their relationship. It's like an internal failing. But most of the time it is an external pressure, which is just kind of crushing everything else. And what takes over is the conversation about logistics.
Yeah.
That's what it becomes. And sometimes we have to obviously make space for that. We need to make sure that everybody knows where they've got to be at what time. But can there be some evenings where you say, right, let's do that for 10 minutes and then we're going to ban that conversation, or we're just not going to talk about the children, or whatever it is. Or there are like some really great, they're a bit cheesy, but they're actually really great like games and things out there now that are like conversation starters and things, which yes, sound strange, but it just encourages you guys to like talk about something else.
Yeah, I get that. So is it possible for a couple to actually feel closer then after having a baby?
Yes. And a lot of people won't believe that when they're in the trenches with it, but there absolutely is the opportunity for your relationship to become better than it was before. It's not going to happen naturally. It's not going to happen necessarily easily, but there's a real opportunity here for growth. I mean, thinking back to the beginning, that kind of hierarchy of needs, that need for safety, what we've got here is a real opportunity for this relationship to feel safer than it ever did before. There's so much that's bonding about having a child. Perhaps if you've struggled even to conceive in the first place, that can be actually like a bonding experience between the two of you. The pregnancy, there's often great trauma bonding during birth. But what we need actually for relationships, any type of relationship, to feel truly safe is for it to go through periods of rupture and repair. It's very easy for a relationship to feel good if it's always been good. But what there will always be in you somewhere is this question mark. But what if it's not good? What if something happens? Would we be able to make it through it? How strong are we? And the adversity of bringing children into a relationship means that you guys get to learn how to navigate difficult times together. And you then get to feel like, okay, I now know that this is truly safe. I now know that we can really get through difficult times together. So that rupture and repair is what actually ends up making it feel more safe than it was before. Yeah,
I understand that actually. I think I always talk about one of the best moments, well, 3 of them with 3 children, best moments I've had with my husband are actually through my labours, because it's like one of the rare occasions in our relationship where we switch and I go into the more vulnerable role, which I'm not usually in. And he's really stepped up and taken charge and been there in all the ways that I've needed. And I feel each of those moments really stick in my mind for just how much he showed up for me. And I think that was a real bonding process.
Yes, because in that moment, like you say, you were vulnerable and you experienced him as safe.
Yes.
He was your safety. And that's what we really want to happen here, that when life feels stressful and overwhelming and you're burnt out and you're frightened, that your partner becomes the symbol of safety. That's what's so lovely and comforting about them. The difficulty that parents get into is that their partner is the one that doesn't feel safe because they feel like they're at war with them. But there's absolutely an opportunity here for that to feel better than it did before. It just takes this work. It takes this consciousness and curiosity and things like that. So it's probably not going to happen naturally, but it absolutely can.
But I think it would be naive for anyone to expect that you're going to get into a relationship one day and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line that you're going to be the same person showing up in that relationship. We are all constantly changing. And I think if I take myself and my husband, we are different people now from when we met because of those life experiences. They have grown and changed us. And therefore we have had to work continuously throughout our marriage to reconnect, readjust, to listen to the other person's point of view, to stay on track.
And actually, like if you can view it as like a challenge, it can add something to the relationship, because if you got into a relationship and it did just stay the same for the next 50 years, I mean, to me personally, like that sounds quite boring.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about like this is going to be challenging at time, and there are going to be bumps and there are going to be things that we need to navigate. And like, that's a bit of a challenge and that's a bit exciting. And then you get to feel good after you've like navigated through something difficult. So it's also viewing it as this, like, it's an opportunity here. And anything that maybe wasn't working particularly well before could be renegotiated, could be reevaluated, could be even better. Like there's something exciting about this as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to look at it, as an exciting challenge, journey together.
Doesn't always feel it when you're in it, but...
So from your experience working with couples, what's the best advice to helping them stay on track then at this tricky time?
I guess, you know, the first thing that we've kind of touched on is you need to be talking to each other. You have absolutely got to be talking to each other, because this isn't going to change if they don't know how you're feeling or what you're experiencing. A lot of the time this is held in secret. We've got to take away that sense of secret, because nothing's ever going to change. So we need to be talking, we need to be vulnerable, we need to be listening with compassion and empathy. A really big thing which is helpful at this stage in life, because you're not always completely in control of your reactions and emotions, is focusing on repair. So if there has been an argument or a snap or whatever it is, coming back and saying, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I had it this morning with my husband. I was, you know, rushing to try and get the train, get my son to school. It was raining. My nervous system was massively elevated. I was stressed. And then he called me when I was in the car, and I literally answered it like, what is it?
Yeah.
And actually what he was doing was calling to say to me, don't drive the normal way into town because the traffic's really bad. Go the other way. He was being really thoughtful. He knew that I was going to be stressed and I was going to be rushing. But my nervous system reaction was like, what now? I can't take any more.
Yeah.
And what I did when I got on the train was just take a breath, send him a message. I'm sorry for snapping. I really appreciate you letting me know about the traffic, you know, and then it's okay again.
Yeah.
It's that really focusing on coming back together and repairing whatever it is that's exploded out of either of you.
I think that's really important, isn't it? In your relationship with your partner, like it is with your kids. You know, we're not flawless. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to have moments when we feel heightened, overstimulated and stressed, and we will snap. Accepting that, but like you say, accepting that if we can go back and repair, that's where the magic comes in, and that's where the relationship can be sort of saved and repaired.
Yes, and it goes back to that sense of like rupture and repair, and it happens on really, really small scales every day. Like we can then learn that every time our partner snaps, it isn't a massive threat to the relationship, which is like, this is how it's going to be forevermore now. It is just a moment and the moment will pass. It's all about remembering that you guys are a team.
Yeah.
You guys are in it together. And that's the place to kind of come back to always. If you are experiencing conflict or disconnection, it's very much coming back to how have we created this sense in our relationship and what can we do to try and make this feel better?
I love that. Lovely. Suzie, do you have any final words of advice for the listeners today?
I guess just like, remember why you did this in the first place, because having children can feel personally at times like, why did I ever do this? And for a relationship can feel like, my God, why did we ever do this? But come back to like, why did you do this? Most of the time when couples have a child, have a baby, they've wanted to do it because they've wanted to be more connected. They've wanted to create something together. It's come from love. So just really go back to that sense of like, the reason that we have this family unit is because this is what we wanted, because we love each other.
Yeah.
And really trying to remember that.
I love that. I think you've got some great words of advice there for any couples that are navigating parenthood for the first time, or who are struggling through disconnect or through arguments, as you explained there. I feel there's a lot that we can all just put into our everyday relationship to try and help it reach its optimal level as well. So thank you, Suzie, for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. Thanks.